Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., former White House attorney under President George W. Bush and member of the Supreme Court Bar, George Braun. George, criminal justice system, if this case were in the criminal justice system, it would never make it into court, would it? It would never see the light of day of a courtroom. And if you were the defense attorney, the little bit I know about law, I would presume, George, that you would probably approach the judge and say, hey, if it does make it into court, can we have a summary judgment here? Meaning the Democrats have not made their case.
Actually, the correct term would be a directed verdict non-suit.
All right.
You have not made a application that would be going through. And this is kind of interesting because when it gets to the Senate is not a jury in the idea of a jury system. The Senate is actually the court. It makes the rules. It decides evidentiary proceedings and a number of other major ideas. So one of the things that we've been watching through the impeachment inquiry, which first off isn't even in the Constitution, you either have an impeachment or you don't. One of the things that we've seen is that the complete lack of fairness, it's basically a bill of attainder case where you're looking for a crime to pin on something after they did something that you don't like,
right,
which was, in this case, the president won an election in 2016 against somebody who had it rigged.
Joseph Stalin would approve, in other words, what you're saying. And this is what they have been doing effectively for, well, ever since the election results of 2016. And the Supreme Court justice presides over impeachment, but really it's an administerial position. He's there effectively just as kind of an umpire and a secretary, if you will. And that brings me to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because it's important that we speak about what 1/9 of the United States Supreme Court here, George. Her health is failing. That's no secret. Her mental health, we don't know. She was appointed many, many years ago by Bill Clinton. She's 86 now. She wants to stay on until she's 90. The Constitution really only has impeachment as a remedy for the Article III branch vis-a-vis the United States Supreme Court and members who sit there, right? And it's very difficult to invoke that.
And actually, usually, and it happened with Blackmun and a couple of other judges, usually the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the friends of the justice on the court sit them down and say, it's time for you to go. I don't know how we're going to do that in this case because of the fact that Justice Thomas has also kind of basically said that he'll go at the same time that she leaves so that a younger man can take his place. And there's a rumor on the Hill that Kennedy and Breyer actually flipped a coin as to who got to retire. So the number of justices that this president is going to be able to appoint, should he win the re-election in 2020, is something to look at.
This is no small point that you bring up, and this is not common knowledge. I haven't read anywhere what you're talking about there. This is probably chatter that exists on the Hill in Washington, D.C. only. And so you can understand why the Democrats are vitriolic about the 2020 election and their potential nominee, the Democrat nominee, and who wins ultimately.
Well, and there's also the question of who will actually try this case in the Senate. When Ms. Hill was asked to testify the other week, she brought up the FISA court. The ultimate ruler over the FISA court is the Chief Justice. So if the Senate Republicans were to subpoena the head of the FISA court to find out what happened, that would make Chief Justice Roberts a material witness in the case, and therefore he couldn't try it.
Yeah, a lot of machinations, a lot of dynamics here. The bottom line is with Ginsburg, if Donald Trump happens to lose the 2020 election, I would suspect we're going to see a retirement ipso facto very quickly here. George, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.